In the winter of 1935, at the height of the Great Depression, when America was exhausted, desperate, and quietly unstable, a decision was made that would never appear in public records. Just off the coast of Massachusetts, beyond the usual shipping lanes and swallowed by thick Atlantic fog, sat a small, rocky island that most fishermen avoided. It had no permanent residents, no industry, no reason to matter, and that was exactly why it was chosen. The island would become Black Hollow Facility, though that name would never appear on official maps. The stated purpose was simple: psychiatric rehabilitation for violent or unstable patients who could not be housed in overcrowded mainland institutions. But the language used in private correspondence was different. Words like containment, isolation, observation. The island was less a hospital and more an experiment hidden by geography. Construction began quietly in late 1935. Supplies were shipped at night, workers were contracted under strict non-disclosure agreements. The main building rose from stone like a fortress, narrow windows, reinforced iron doors, a basement that extended deeper than the blueprints publicly suggested. Beneath the structure, tunnels were carved into bedrock, allegedly for storage and maintenance access. Those tunnels would later become the most disputed aspect of the entire case. By January 1936, 82 patients were transferred to Black Hollow. Some had histories of violence. Others were suffering from anxiety disorders, depression, or trauma. A few had been declared difficult to categorize. Their files were marked with red stamps that read "Special Observation." The first months were quiet, too quiet. Staff journals describe an oppressive silence on the island. No birds nested in the cliffs, no rodents were ever trapped in the facility. Even the ocean seemed distant, as if the sound of waves stopped short of the shore. Guards complained about insomnia. Nurses reported vivid dreams. Several patients began describing the same recurring image: a tall figure standing at the water's edge at night. At first, doctors dismissed it as suggestion, a rumor spreading unconsciously through the wards. But the descriptions were identical: height estimated at 7 feet, no facial features, no movement, just watching the building from the shoreline. On March 14, 1936, the first death occurred. Eleanor Whittemore, age 26, admitted for severe anxiety, was found unresponsive in her room. There were no marks on her body, no evidence of poisoning, no trauma. Her expression, however, was described by the attending physician as locked in absolute terror. The autopsy listed cardiac arrest brought on by acute psychological stress. That same night, 5 other patients began screaming simultaneously at exactly 2:17 a.m. When staff reached their rooms, each patient was pointing to the corner near the ceiling. Each claimed something tall had been standing there. The doors had been locked from the outside. Within weeks, the atmosphere shifted from uneasy to volatile. Equipment malfunctioned regularly. Light bulbs shattered without overheating. Footsteps were reported in the corridors during lockdown hours. One guard swore he saw a shadow move against the wall that did not match the position of any object in the hallway. By early summer, 9 patients were dead. Officially, causes ranged from suicide to sudden organ failure. Unofficially, several staff members began writing private letters expressing fear. One nurse wrote to her sister, "The walls feel like they're breathing after midnight." Tunnel C was the first location formally sealed. According to maintenance logs, a worker named Daniel Mercer entered Tunnel C to inspect wiring after repeated electrical failures. He never returned. A search party found his flashlight lying upright on the ground, still switched on, its beam directed at a section of unfinished stone wall. There were no signs of collapse, no blood, no footprints leading deeper into the tunnel. 3 days later, federal officials arrived unannounced. Records were seized, personal journals confiscated. Staff were required to sign lifetime confidentiality agreements. The language used during the visit reportedly included the phrase containment breach, though no official explanation accompanied it. Dr. Malcolm Reeves, the facility's superintendent, made one final journal entry before those records disappeared. A copy surfaced decades later in a private estate sale. The final line read, "It is not a shared delusion. It is aware." On October 6, 1936, Black Hollow burned. The fire reportedly began in the basement, though initial statements blamed faulty wiring. Fishermen miles offshore described flames erupting from below ground level, as if something beneath the island had ignited first. By morning, the structure was reduced to stone shell and ash. Of the 82 patients originally admitted, only 23 were accounted for after the fire. 17 refused interviews. 4 died by suicide within 5 years. 2 vanished from public record entirely. The island was abandoned. For decades, it was omitted from most civilian nautical charts. Naval maps listed it only as a restricted geological site. No official explanation was ever released. In 1952, a former guard named Thomas Hale gave a brief recorded interview before retracting his statements. He described seeing something in the tunnels that was not a patient and not human. He insisted it did not walk, but instead appeared closer without visible movement. He described overwhelming dread in its presence, not fear of attack, but fear of being observed by something that understood him completely. 2 weeks after that interview, Hale died of unexplained internal bleeding, no external injuries documented. The story might have faded entirely if not for a group of urban explorers in 1998 who located the island using outdated maritime coordinates. They described an unnatural silence upon arrival. No wildlife, no insects. Inside the remains of the basement structure, they found the entrance to a sealed tunnel consistent with old architectural plans labeled C. One member left a digital recorder near the wall for several minutes. When reviewed later, the audio contained low rhythmic sound resembling breathing. Beneath it, barely audible, a distortion that some interpret as a whisper. Analysis was inconclusive. The group did not return. Modern satellite imagery shows unusual thermal inconsistencies beneath the island's surface, minor heat signatures that fluctuate without obvious geological explanation. Skeptics attribute it to rock density variation. Others point to the incomplete tunnel schematics discovered in declassified documents from 1974. There is no official acknowledgement that Black Hollow facility ever existed, yet archived supply invoices confirm regular shipments to an unnamed coastal installation between 1935 and 1936. Passenger transfer records indicate 82 psychiatric relocations to an unspecified maritime destination. After October 1936, those patients simply disappear from institutional logs. Theories range from environmental toxins causing shared hallucinations to experimental psychological research gone wrong. Some speculate about underground gas pockets inducing paranoia. Others propose deliberate human experimentation. But none of those explanations account for identical visual descriptions across dozens of unrelated individuals, nor do they explain the missing bodies. Even today, local fishermen occasionally speak of a shape visible through fog on rare nights when the tide is unusually still. A vertical shadow near the shoreline, too tall to be driftwood, too still to be human. There are no warning buoys around the island, no tour boats approach it, modern maps listed only by a numerical designation. History often buries its mistakes in paperwork and silence, but some places resist erasure. If you ever travel the northern Atlantic coast and notice an island absent from your map, an island where the air feels heavy and the sound of the ocean seems distant, remember this: 82 people arrived there, only 23 left, and something, according to every surviving account, never did. Some horrors are born from human cruelty, others simply wait to be noticed. Black Hollow was never meant to be remembered, but forgetting does not mean it is gone. And somewhere beyond the fog, beyond official records, beyond rational explanation, something may still be standing at the water's edge, watching.